Well, good morning, campers. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be canning, and we'll be pressure canning chicken parts, specifically legs and thighs. This is not a typical canning process. We're going to be adding a little something to all of them. Some of them will get a little beef broth put in. Some of them will have some onion added. Some of them will have canning salt, some of them will have sea salt, some of them will have onion, some of them will have garlic, and we may throw something else in there if we come across it. So stick around and watch the process, and hit that notification bell if you want to see the follow-up on this when we test a few out. And we'll be back in just a second. Today we're going to be using a Presto canner. It's a 25 quart canner, and we got that so we could double stack jars. We can put 1 quart and 1 pint layer in the canner. When we bought it, it only came with one canning rack. You do not want to stack these jars one on top of the other, because the jars on the top will press down on the lid of the bottom, and that could cause some problems. So what I did is pulled a metal rack out of a pressure cooker, and it's much smaller than the canner. It's about a couple of inches shorter than the diameter of the canner, but we can set it on top of the bottom layer and it will rest on the rings, and resting on the rings is not as much of a problem as resting on the legs. And when you do have a second canner rack, you can put that on there, and it does in fact rest on the rings of the bottom layer. So we're going to try that. It will hold 7 quart jars, and it will hold 8 of the pint jars. So we're going to do a bunch of canning today. This will be the first round, and we'll get to a second round where we're canning ham later. So let's get started. We've taken these jars and washed and rinsed them in very hot water. We turned them up on the dish towel here and let them drain. They are not fully drained. There's still some water left in there, some of the hot water still left in there. And I put some tape around the jar so I can write on what was placed in the jar. So the first we're going to do is throw some meat in the jars. Then we'll come back and add our ingredients. These are thighs and legs, and we're going to pack these in fairly tight. And it looks like we'll probably be able to get 2 thighs and 2 legs. Yeah, maybe not. If we pack them right, we can probably get 2 thighs and 2 legs in the quart. There we go. Now that is packed tight, so we want to be careful and not overfill it with anything else. This meat we found at a Amish store. My wife was talking to some friends online, and somebody was saying that how they can't find any meat anymore, that Walmart was completely out and there's nothing anywhere. And someone else chimed in that, oh, this Dutchman place down here has a bunch of meat and it is fresh and inexpensive and you should go try it out. So the next day we made a special trip down there, and they did have meat and it looked fantastic. This chicken we got for $1.49 a pound, which is less than we'd normally find it at Walmart, even when there wasn't a COVID issue. Looks like we're a little sparse on legs, so I'm going to try packing one with just thighs in it. And I'm going to put 4 thighs in it, because most of these will be cooked for 2 people, and a leg and a thigh is usually what we'd need. So cram it in there. It'll reduce in cooking. Yeah, this chicken definitely had more thighs than legs. I guess they do that so they can't run away. I'm packing this raw, bone in, skin on. And we'll be doing a canning, pressure canning process. And that is all of the quart jars. We're going to put these pint jars, we're just going to put a couple of thighs in this one because that's all I have left. Actually, we're only going to put 1 thigh in there because that's all that'll fit. So, 7 jars of thighs and legs and 2 pint jars of just a thigh. Now we're going to got a little schmutz around the lids here, rims on some of this. So I'm just going to wipe them off just so I don't get it on my hand and cross-contaminate everything. Now in half of these I'm going to put a tablespoon of beef bouillon. And beef bouillon instead of chicken because I kind of like the flavor of beef, what it does to chicken. Now this I made concentrated by half, so 1 cube is usually used for per cup when you're making bouillon like this. And I used 1 cube and half a cup because this chicken will produce its own liquid, and that will dilute the bouillon, and it'll dilute it below full strength, but it's still going to add a little flavor to it. So the ones with bouillon added I'm going to put over here on this side, and the ones without on that side, just so I'll know. So I want to add salt to all of these, but I don't know what kind of salt I want to add. I've never tried this sea salt. We got this at the Dutchman's place also. They have a lot of stuff there where they buy bulk and then repackage, and this is one of it. This is purified sea salt. So this is 79 cents a pound, and this bag went for $2.71. I don't really know how that compares to other stores, but it seems like a good deal to me. So in these quart jars over here, I'm going to take 2 with bouillon and 2 without bouillon and put half a teaspoon of this sea salt in there. And on the others, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of the regular canning salt. Alright, so half a teaspoon of canning salt in these others. Actually, for this pint, I'm going to use a 1/4 teaspoon. Now we generally, whenever I cook something, I pretty much always use garlic powder and almost always use onion salt. So I'm going to add garlic powder, 1 teaspoon, or sorry, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and this is fresh. You know it's fresh because I'm just now opening it. I'm going to add half a teaspoon to all of the quart jars, and then I'll be adding a 1/4 teaspoon to the pint jars. Now, onion is something I generally put in, but not always. And I think with the beef bouillon, that's going to add enough flavor to it. So I'm only going to use this in the jars that I don't have beef bouillon added to. And I think I'll do it with just a 1/4 teaspoon on those. And on these, this pint jar, I'm just going to visually add half of a 1/4 teaspoon because I don't have an 1/8 teaspoon. So there's the onion. We've got salt, garlic, onion, and beef broth on all of these now. So now we're going to put the lids on. And we'll use a paper towel, corner of a paper towel, dipped in this to wipe down these rims. This is to clean off any grease or fat that may have stayed in there, may have coated that rim, because anything between the liner and the rim can cause pressure problems and can cause a path for bacteria to enter the jar. Now we've got jars here, jar lids here that were placed in very hot water, brought it to a boil, and then took it out. Even though I added a liquid to it, I did not debubble because I didn't feel I needed to. Okay, all the lids are on. Now we need to put the rings on. Rings are supposed to be going on there finger tight, and I've seen a lot of different definitions for finger tight. One of them is spin it till it stops turning freely, and then go 1/8 of a turn. That's a little tight for me. I like to go to stop spinning and go just maybe 1/2 inch on there. That gets it tight, but not so tight that it doesn't do the job. Remember, the purpose of these rings is to hold, strictly hold, and just hold that lid in place as it gets hot. As it gets hot, the liquid inside is going to come to boiling and going to generate some pressure, just like your liquid in your pressure canner, and that needs to vent. The reason you run the pressure canner for 10 minutes after you get a good head of steam is to expel all the air and remove oxygen from the jars or from the environment. And the same thing with the bottle. You want enough pressure on there to hold the lid down, but not so much that you're going to inhibit the pressure release from the inside. Because the liquid, as it gets hot and boils and vaporizes off, will displace the air, the oxygen from inside the bottle. And that's what helps keep it, that there is no oxidation of the material of the meat in the bottle. So now it's on, we're going to now label these. You know what? This ain't going to work, because I put those jars in there, that tape on, that tape's just going to come off. So let's see, what do we got here? We've got, the date is 5/13. When you go online and look for the definition of finger tight, you'll find a bunch of different definitions. One says it's tight enough that no mechanical assistance is required to tighten it any further. To me, that says hand tight, not finger tight. And if you look at a lot of people doing canning online, they'll get it down here and they'll bring it down till it stops, and then they'll just give it a twist like that. To me, that's a little more than finger tight. It's got to be tight enough to hold it down, but loose enough to let that steam out. So crank it down with your hand may be okay. I like to be safe than sorry, so I'm not going to get it too tight. So everything's loaded. So we do need to continue this labeling, don't we? So this is beef with sea salt, garlic, and onion. Okay. So everything's ready to go into the canner. Canner's not ready though. We need to add 3 cups of water to this, and we need it to be kind of sort of warm water. It should not be hot, but it doesn't need to be cold. This pot has markings in it for the 3/4 level, so all we need to do is just turn it on. It has marking at 3 cup level, not 3/4, 3 cup level. And you need a minimum of 3 cups in here to complete the canning process. Okay. So there's this. This is a small kitchen, kind of tight. So I'm going to get this started heating as I put the bottles in. Put the quarts in first, and 6 will fit around the outside, and number 7 goes in the middle. This is the grid, the rack from the pressure cooker. Do not use pressure cookers to can. It won't do it. So I'm going to turn this in, I'm going to put this down, I'm going to turn it upside down. These bumps here, if you put them down, they will press down on the lid. You don't want that. So push it, put it down with the flat side down so it rests on the rims. I've only got 2 quarts. That'll work. So it fills it up. This is the lid for this. It's got somewhere, there it is maybe. So you line up the arrow on the lid with the arrow on the handle, and just turn that until the handles line up. Now, this hasn't started boiling yet, so we'll leave it like that till it does, and when it starts making steam we'll come back and take a look at it. Well, it's been a couple hours, 2.5 hours later. We did the standard thing, put them in there and let it boil and steam purge for a bit. We did have a little problem with that pressure canner. It was leaking around one of the sides. And, well, it's a pot here, doesn't have a side, but it was leaking around one of the tabs in the lid. And not real sure why, but it would never come up to pressure. The lock on it popped up, but we never got any pressure whatsoever. I even tried putting the weight on there to see if that would bring it up and force the seal to seal itself off, but it didn't. Had to shut it down, let it cool off a bit, and open the lid. And not sure why it wouldn't seal. I wiped down the edge of the pot where it was in that area where it was leaking. Didn't really feel anything, didn't see any issues. Wiped down the lid and the seal, the gasket in that area. Didn't see any problems or anything. I rotated the gasket a little bit, moved it around. Maybe that was just it. Maybe it was stuck in a position that wouldn't seal. Put it back together and turned the fire back on, and it seemed to work all right. So let it go, got the pressure up, and actually we overshot the pressure a little bit. I tried turning the fire down. It looked like it was going to be stable, so I went off and did something else, and came back and the pressure was higher still. It went up to about 13 psi, and turned the fire down some more, and some more, and some more, and the pressure was still going up a bit. Got up to about 14 before I got the fire down to just about as low as it would go. Slowly came down over that hour and a half. I guess it held heat pretty well. There was a lot of mass in there. It had these 7 quart jars and the 2 pints. So I guess there was a lot of mass in there. It took a while to heat up. It took like 45 minutes to get steam on it the first time. And it took a long time for it to cool down. So I guess the secret to maintaining pressure and maintaining temperature is to have a large thermal mass available. Who would have thought? Anyway, it looks like one of the jars leaked a little bit, overflowed some. Not sure which one. They all have a good bit of headspace. This one here has the least, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's when it's cooled down, it's got about 3/4 to an inch of headspace in it. All the others have much more than that. So I'm assuming if one leaked, it was that one. And what makes me suspect the leak is there's a little fat floating on top of the water in the pressure canner. And there's a white residue all over the jars and the lids. Well, all over the ones in the bottom layer, the ones in the top layer that were never exposed to the boiling water. There's no residue on them. I don't think that's going to be a problem. They all seem to have sealed. They've all popped and gone down. We will be trying this one though fairly soon. Since I think it's the one that leaked, we'll open it up in a week or so, see how it tastes, and have it for a meal. That way I don't have to worry about it. So those are the bottles of chicken. We'll next be working on canning some ham. So we'll be talking some more about it. As you can see, we got some canned chicken. It took an evening, but we got it. And we've got 7 meals and a couple of snacks here ready to go on the shelf and enjoy at our leisure. They're not taking up freezer space. They're not taking up refrigerator space. They're in meal-sized portions, and we're good to go with it. So let me know what you think about this spillage. If you think that's an issue that I should take further action on, let me know. We were canning at a higher pressure for nearly all of the time, well over 11 pounds. Typically around 12, 13, but up to 14 at one point for half an hour or so. Not sure what that's going to do to the meat. I don't think it's going to be a problem with the canning. All that resulted in was the cans being exposed to a higher temperature. So the canning process should be okay. I don't know what it's going to do to the flavor of the chicken, or how overcooking like that will affect the quality of the meat. We'll see though in a week or two, and let you know at that time. So if you like what you see, hit that like button. To be caught up and stay current on our future canning operations, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next, we're going to be canning that ham. We'll also be freeze drying some of it. And we have some Canadian bacon that we're going to package up. We'll not freeze dry that. There's too much fat in it, so we're not going to freeze dry that. But we will be packing it up in smaller jars. Don't really make a meal out of Canadian bacon. Use it with something else. So we'll probably be using half-pint jars to hold a single meal's worth at a time. So we should be able to get a lot more jars in there and get a lot more done at one time. Multiple layers, we should be able to can that whole 2 pounds of bacon without an issue. I do have one question though for you experts out there. If I do put half-pint jars in there, they're going to be covered in water. The tops are going to be covered in water. Is that a problem or not? Do I need to be concerned about the tops of the lids being underwater, or will that be okay? If it is a problem, do I put empty jars in the bottom to elevate the full jars above the water level, or I don't want to use less water in there because we need a full 3 cups to last the steam time. So let me know what the issue is. Again, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to stay current on these issues. And if you like what you see, hit the like button. We'll talk to you later.